Well, I think it would be fair to say there's not a more popular bait around the country and even around the world than the humble pilchard. Some people call them sardines in other countries, but to us they're pilchards, pillies, blues, whatever you may call it. These catch fish. I'm going to show you 7 different ways that you can rig a pilchard, not only so that it works better, but so you get a better hookup rate, because with the pillies, they are a little bit soft, and if you don't rig them right, they do tend to fall off, or the fish get them off before you catch the fish. So let's get to it. So number 1, snelled 2-hook rig. Probably my favorite and one I use the most at home when we're fishing for snapper in Port Phillip Bay. First of all, we're going to rig the bait backwards. Our line is going to end up at this end of the bait. We get our bottom hook of the 2-hook rig, so this guy here, and I like to come in about 2/3 the way down the bait, go all the way through the bait like so, pull it all the way through. Okay, then you're going to get this hook and you're going to go backwards behind the gill plate. So there's the gill plate of the bait there, and it doesn't matter if it's a pilchard or a silver whiting or a yakka or a mullet or whatever. This is a great way to rig them, especially if the bait's going to sit on the bottom. Pop it in there behind the gill case and out the eye socket. Then lay the hook back along like that. What we're aiming for is hook exposure. I'm not trying to hide the hook in this bait. Once that's in place, we'll get the top hook, and we're going to do exactly the same in reverse, about 1/2 to 2/3 the way up the bait on the opposite side, push it in and then pop it out. You don't want to have this piece of line here pulled tight, because if it pulls tight, your bait's bent like that and it will spin. As you can see, that is dead straight. To finish this off, a couple of half hitches around the tail, and the idea of the half hitch, we just go a loop like that over the tail, and I like to do one down the bait a little bit. You pull that tight, okay, like so, and then I'll do another one just at the tail wrist like that. The idea is this is the pull point on the bait when you cast it out. So that's where all the pull is. It's not pulling on the hooks, and as you can see, that bait is beautifully straight. Cast that out with no sinker or a little sinker and just have it floating down. You can put weight on it, sink it to the bottom. This is great when you're not in too much tide. If you're in a bit of tide, you can still rig it this way, but a good trick is to just get the bait and just lob off that little bit of tail, and that will stop the bait from spinning as well. You wouldn't think so, but it makes all the difference, because in the tide that tail folds out and it causes the bait to just helicopter. So there you go, that's bait number 1. The second way to rig a pilchard with a single hook, we're going to do it exactly the same, but with one. Now, when you use a bait, it's important you match the hook to the bait. This is a smaller pilchard, so you don't need a giant hook. What we're going to do is come in about, I suppose, 1/3 of the way down. I'm going to get the hook through the back. A really good thing to work on is basically where the blue back joins the silver side, put your hook through the middle there. Where they join, we're going to get that hook, pull it all the way through. You can go back through that way, but I like to come back over the back, and then in about the middle of the bait, we're going to come through again. You can do it more if you want, but I don't like to make too many holes in the bait, because the holes is where the fish will start to break apart. So from this point, slide that through. We're going to get my hook, and again in reverse, just behind the gill plate, in there, out there, lay the hook back along like so, pull that up, and there you can see that bait is nice and straight. It's got a slight bend in it. Straighten him out. Okay, to finish this off, I'll now do half hitch, again down from the tail, and then we'll do another one up near where the tail joins the body, and there you have a single hook pilchard rig. Number 3, probably one of the easiest yet least used ways of rigging a pilchard. This one, I get my pilchard, and I really love to use, I suppose, the back half, because it's more meat, less stomach, and it's more of a chunk. For the purpose of the exercise, we're going to go straight through there, make yourself quite literally a pilchard chunk. This is a great bait. Again, match the hook to the size of the bait you're using. You don't need a giant hook, and in fact a smaller hook in this works better. Best way to pin a pilchard chunk is from that side to that side through the top half of the bait, just like so. And this is awesome as an unweighted bait. If you get that unweighted or the tiniest little bit of lead, lob that out, let that float down, that can catch you just about anything. It's so simple, it's ridiculous, but it does work. And because it's a chunk, you'll find it lasts a little bit longer. The pickers might get into all this sort of stuff, but you're still left with a bit of bait. Bait number 4, really simple way to rig it. Again, 2-hook rig. We're going to rig it forwards this time, and there's a lot less, I suppose, procedures to rigging this bait. The main thing you want to work on is making sure that your hook points face up. So this is an offset hook. That's a Gamakatsu octopus. Okay, the shank comes down and then you'll see that tip sits out to the side. All right, the one thing I want is the tip pointing up when this bait is laying level. So first thing you do, work out where that hook is going to go through the bait, like so. All right, so I want this hook to go through the nose of the bait or the eye socket, either one. For this one, we'll do it through the eye socket, and then I'm just going to put that back hook straight through there, like so. This is not a bad one because it sort of hides that hook a little bit better, but that tip is pointing up, and as I run my finger along the side of the bait, it catches on my finger like so. From there, we get the next hook straight through there, and there you have a forward rigged bait. This won't stay on as well as that bait there that's rigged the opposite way, quite simply because we've got better hold points and the line woven through the bait, but this is super effective. The other thing you can do, and a lot of people like to do, is get that and just even lob the tail off like so, chuck that over there. So you've shortened your bait up, it's letting a lot of smell out, and fish love that. Rig number 5, this is how to rig a pilchard fillet, a deadly bait. Keep it small, especially when you're fishing small hooks, light leader. This can catch you some amazing fish. Get your pilly. Again, I really like this back end of the pilchard because it's all meat. The front end, I do tend to use a lot more for burley. So we're just gonna come in midway. It's a smaller pilchard. If it's bigger, you'll come further back. But for this guy here, down to the backbone, turn the knife sideways, run it along like so. Okay, now as you can see, that's not a big bait. What makes that so good is obviously lots of smell coming out of it because pilchards are really oily. It's a soft bait, it won't last long. So it's important that you rig it correctly. For this guy here, little Gamakatsu bait keeper hook, but you can use whatever you want, just keep it small. This one, we are going to go through the bait up here. All right, now I see a lot of people, they'll get the hook and they'll wind it back and forth and back and forth. Again, try not to do that too much. We'll just go through there like so. I like to pull the hook through, and then we're just going to go back through the bait just like this, and I'm running that hook down through the meat. See, it's not sticking out. Just fold that bait and don't squeeze the pilchard because it is such a soft bait, and that's why I like this little bait keeper. It just holds that hook nicely. You can rig it the other way so that the hook is in the meat side, but I'll do it this way so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so that's sitting there quite nicely like that, and then again the good old half hitch, 1 and 2, and that's where our pull point's coming from for this bait to be rigged nicely. There you go. As you can imagine, it's a soft bait. It's not going to last long when a fish grabs it. You've got good hook exposure. The fish will swallow it really quickly. Anything decent will anyway, and you will hook him. But the most important thing is that, again, this is our toe point here. So when you cast it out, it doesn't all bunch up on the hook. That bait will literally go to the bottom, looking very, very natural. And you could even just put a split shot or a tiny ball sinker down to the hook, whatever you need to do. You get that bait to sink down to where you need it. That is a deadly effective bait that I have personally caught so many fish on over the years. And in fact, this is how I used to fish for bream in estuaries when I was a kid. All right, number 6, probably one of my all-time favorites, the Pilchard tail. I love this guy because he's got a bit of weight about him and it will last longer than, say, the Pilchard fillet. Really simple. Back half of the bait, again, it's all meaty. You can see the blood, there's lots of oil that comes out. Get your hook, just like so. All right, I'm gonna come in. We're basically doing this one just how we do the whole baits. Come in just back from the tail a little bit. Okay, I go through once. Now you can do it 2 ways. You can either rig the hook through the bait like that if you want to hide the hook. Okay, but because it's firm, I actually prefer to still have that hook sticking out. So just below where that line's coming out, stick the hook in there, out there, pull that leader up so it's nice. All right, as you can see, that hook's sticking out beautifully. Then we're going to go half hitch and half hitch. Pull that tight. There you go. A small bait, that works. So as you can see, as I've been rigging these baits, there's been different size hooks to match the baits, and that is so important. Don't just go chucking a giant hook into a tiny bait or a tiny hook into a big bait, because that's how you miss fish. That there will catch something small or big and it will last, because as I said, it's a solid bait. It's not a fillet or an open bait. They can really only start chewing from this end if they're pickers. Anything decent will swallow that like a snack. Okay, lucky last, number 7, a gang hook pilchard rig. Tailor and salmon fishermen and surf fishermen all around the country are gonna know this one all too well, and for good reason. Gang hooks just work. They hold the bait beautifully. The best thing about these, if you've got fish with teeth, your tailor, your mackerel, species like that, this acts like a wire trace so you don't get bitten off. Now, when you rig a pilchard on a gang, again, it's important that you run the right sized hooks. Big pilchard, small pilchard, all right? Big gang hooks, small gang hooks, just like so. When you rig your pilchard, really simply, roll him over. Again, we have an offset in the hook, all right? So that tip's coming out to this side. I want those hooks so that the tip faces up. The way I learnt to do this as a kid, lay your pilchard out like that, lay your hooks along there, and I really like to try and get that front hook going through that sort of clear section of the bait there. And I keep talking about pilchards, but you could be using garfish or mullet or whatever it may be that you need to use. Get your back hook, just give him a small press there, and you can see I've made just the slightest little indentation in the bait. That's where my back hook needs to go, and you've got to start with your back hook. We're going to run right along this line where the blue meets the silver. Okay, hook through there, get your next hook through there, like so, and then this last one, it will just go straight through there like that. Yep. We have a beautifully straight bait that you can cast out, wind in, do whatever you need to do. Don't worry that the hook's not right back here, because anything decent, you'll get him on the back hook, but in most cases you can catch them on any of the 3. Best of all, if a tailor knocks the tail off the bait, they'll come back and eat the rest of it. That is your pilchard on a gang hook, absolutely deadly for so many species. So there you go, guys, 7 ways to rig a pilchard. I hope these work as well for you as they have for me over the years.